For me, one of my favorite subgenres in horror is RPG Maker horror. If you don't know what that is, it's a niche set of horror games created using one of the many RPG Maker engines. The games made with RPG Maker are usually, as the name implies, role-playing games. But when it comes to horror, we've ended up getting something much more special. Corpse Party, Witch's House, Ib, Mad Father, even Mixore. Just some of the games that go past being a generic RPG in order to create a more engaging experience with much more than just turn-based combat. All of the previous games I mentioned are amazing too, some of the best horror games I've played, but what I want to talk about today is Pocket Mirror. Pocket Mirror is an adventure horror game created by Astral Ship, a small team of developers who focused on creating a game inspired by the likes of Witch's House and Ib. The game has possibly one of the most comprehensive and complex stories in an RPG Maker horror game that I've ever seen. And the gameplay takes from a variety of puzzle types that have been used in past RPG Maker horror games. There really is so much to say about this game, but I think I would be here for hours if I tried to discuss everything this game does, both good and bad. What I really want to focus on is the amazing story this game details. It's complex, yes, but I hope to fully explain it to the best of my ability. I will also give a brief overview of the gameplay, considering it is always a major part of any adventure or puzzle game. Finally, a fair warning that I will bring up spoilers for the game. So without further ado, let's dive into the world of Pocket Mirror. Like most RPG Maker horror games, Pocket Mirror's gameplay is primarily comprised of puzzles. The difference here is the larger scale. Pocket Mirror, like Ib, splits story portions into areas. This allows the puzzles to take on a larger theme for each chapter, tying many of them together. Your actions have meaning, and the world around you drastically changes as you continue on. One of the best examples of this is Egliet's area. Taking the appearance of a regal castle, this entire portion of the game features rooms gleaming with childlike wonder. Everything appears cheerful and fun, but slowly takes on a darker theme as the protagonist continues onward. Nevertheless, there are comical bits sprinkled in between. Some of the characters you interact with give weird but witty dialogue, and quite a few of the deaths appear to be just as ridiculous as ones from games like Misao.
Hi, my little boy. Okay. Did
The journey is weird, but it really works well that way. Even just the mystery of not knowing where or who you are, it all gradually builds up, and the difficulty never ends up raising too high or ending up getting too easy. While there are indeed some cryptic puzzles, most of them are still enjoyable to go through and solve. Though I will admit, I myself had to use a guide once or twice. There are still those types of puzzles. One of the best examples I can give of this is a certain mirror maze in Chapter 4. The entire maze is filled with death traps. If you fail, you restart from the beginning of the maze. It becomes very repetitive, and I feel like it was an unfortunate side effect of the end levels possibly being rushed. But even that aside, most of the game's adventures are extremely memorable and creative. The last thing to mention are the addition of pumpkin charms. They are like gems in Mad Father or notes in Witch's House. Collecting them unlocks new content at the end of the game. However, unlike the new endings you get in those two, you get extra art, videos, music, and developer commentary. Considering that these are the hardest things to find in the game, I think I prefer having them used to unlock extras instead of key endings that would help tell the story. Now with the gameplay out of the way, let's move on to the next section. This part is obviously the bigger focus here. I think it's where Pocket Mirror truly shines past other games similar to it, and one of the biggest reasons is the careful use of symbolism. But before diving into that, I think the best place to start is the beginning. The entire introduction gives very little information as to what is going on. You are a young girl who can't remember anything of her past, with the only thing to cling on to being her golden pocket mirror. She's woken up in a dark stone chamber with nothing familiar whatsoever. It's empty, but there are clear signs that people have been there, and instantly, the importance of the pocket mirror is introduced, as the puzzles in the starting area all revolve around using it. You get a small taste of the horror factor that is to come, while also getting a feel for the setting of the game. The entire area implies a lot about who this girl is, but you won't realize it until much later, and that is the atmosphere this game has. Constant mystery, yet the answers are always right in front of you. Before you begin the prologue, you are told the phrase, "Hold your memories close to your heart." Memories. This is a theme that will come up many times throughout the game. With the introduction completed, the premise for the rest of the game is set, and you continue into the mystical world of Pocket Mirror. I absolutely loved the way Pocket Mirror did this. It most definitely took inspiration from games like Yume Nikki and Off, some of the best in RPG Maker's psychological horror. The lack of background and the simple goal to continue moving forward creates a perfect sense of mystery. But moving on from the intro, I'm going to jump right into the actual story. As the protagonist moves forward throughout the game, it becomes clear that she is of great importance. Most characters she meets seek her pocket mirror, and one in particular much more than the others. This would be the Strange Boy, a character who will be following the protagonist for the entirety of the game. And then there's Egliette and Fleda. Egliette is a living doll who supposedly rules over the first area, and she is best friends with Fleda, a spoiled, bratty girl with what can only be described as sadistic tendencies. The whole two first areas reflect the personalities of these characters. Egliette's appears similar to a royal castle, while Fleda's is a large dollhouse full of wondrous toys, magic rooms, and childish characters. As mentioned earlier, these areas end up slowly revealing a dark undertone. As Fleda's negative traits show more and more, it becomes clear that nothing is as it seems. No matter the choices you make, Fleda dies at the end of this area. Whether she dies with a broken heart or a close bond with the protagonist is determined by the player's actions. As the protagonist moves on, new characters are introduced. The next area is Harpais, but introduced immediately before her is Lisette, a visibly unstable girl who, as expected, also seeks the protagonist's pocket mirror. After a chase scene, Harpais is introduced, a hardworking and kind maid seeking only to help the protagonist. She becomes so obsessed with helping that she does everything in her power to force the protagonist to stay put and allow her to guide her through the area. Speaking of this area, it's important to note the new setting, a 19th century mansion, old and decrepit. This symbolically tells the player many things, the most obvious one being the time period. But in earlier chapters, there was also a clear depiction of wealth, something furthered by this mansion. Yet the mansion is in ruins, so something has definitely gone wrong. As the chapter goes on, Harpais, like Fleda, is revealed to have more hidden sinister traits. Her good intentions go too far, and it is revealed she will do anything, even incapacitate the protagonist, in order to protect her. The chase and puzzle sequence here is long, and a lot of dialogue is shared, but in the end, Harpais dies like Fleda. And also like Fleda, her mood when dying is determined by player actions. The semi-final area belongs to Lisette, the most linear, but also the most disorienting. Nothing here makes any sense. Most of the rooms are circus-themed, or appear similar to a madhouse. And Lisette herself is a psychopath. She takes no hesitation when trying to kill the protagonist. But if the protagonist does indeed survive, Lisette will die instead. A lot of truth is revealed by this point if she is befriended before death, and the implications of a close connection with the protagonist are made. But then, there is the final area. The character featured here is called Angel. I did not bring them up before this, but they have been in every area since chapter 2, similar to the strange boy. She appears to be a near exact replica of the protagonist, minus a few color differences. This is where I will stop following the story and reveal the truth to all this. The best place to start with this is by describing Angel's backstory. Angel was created by the strange boy that has been following the protagonist. Her purpose is to retrieve the pocket mirror, hence why she has followed the player and assisted them in avoiding the many other hostile characters. In the end, it is revealed that Angel no longer wants to follow her initial purpose, but wants to become a real girl, and this is where the symbolism is fully realized. Before revealing the overarching plot twist, I think it's important to acknowledge the strange boy's true motives, so that's where we'll begin with this section. In the true ending, the protagonist is revealed to be a girl named Goldia. Before she was born, her mother exchanged Goldia's soul with the demon for wealth. However, Goldia's soul is somehow protected by the magical pocket mirror she owned, and the strange boy, who is indeed the demon, cannot directly interact with it. He creates Angel to destroy it in order to claim Goldia's soul. But that subplot aside, the bigger reveal is that the events that took place were merely fantasies within Goldia's head. All the characters she met on her supposed journey were actually her split personalities lingering in her subconscious, minus the demon and Angel. As implied by several scenes in Harpei's chapter, Goldia has dissociative identity disorder, and the game subtly told her true story through these figments in her mind. Starting from early childhood, Fleda represented a young, spoiled Goldia, born into a wealthy family. Even as a child, she showed signs of multiple personalities, her first being Agliette, a doll she used to act as a vessel to communicate with her own superego. Confusing at first, but it makes sense if you look back. In Fleda's chapter, Agliette stops speaking. Fleda pretends that Agliette is still speaking, acting as if she always agrees with her decisions. But there are points where Goldia herself can hear Agliette speak as voice of reason, someone to keep Fleda in check. It is subtle, but it is there. Fast forward to the next area, her mid-teens. By this point, Goldia is evidently subject to mental and domestic abuse. She is angry, unruly, and broken. The stress placed on her is touched on in several scenes in Harpei's chapter. And this brings us to Lisette, who represents Goldia's hidden mental state. Harpei would be the same facade Goldia would put on, using her to act as if nothing was wrong. And I didn't mention this before, but Harpei is actually blind. There is a clear reason for this. She blindly attempts to guide Goldia's actions, while silencing the very apparent issue of her growing insanity. This takes us to where Goldia is now. Her Lisette personality has finally gained control, and Goldia was institutionalized. The game starts here. Now seemingly in a comatose state, Goldia herself attempts to repair her mind and make peace with her past personalities. This is where regalia come into play. If Goldia truly bonds with her personalities, they reward her with their regalia. These symbolically represent each of their memories. All of these girls are revealed to truly love each other. They merely misidentify Goldia as the source of their own problems. Fleda, a girl who loves games and excitement, merely wanted friends that were not scared off by her harsh temper. Harpei, the woman who wanted to ensure Goldia was always blindly acting as if everything was okay, only wanted to keep her safe from the dangers of insanity. And Lisette, her most wild personality of them all, truly loved Goldia in the end. Her only desire was to be free, after being buried within the subconscious of her mind. After they all reward Goldia with their regalia, it is implied that Goldia can wake up, finally being at peace with her past. But this takes us back to Angel. Within the final chapter of the game, she seeks the chance to finally become more than just a figment of imagination. Collecting the regalia from Goldia gives her the chance to live life as a real being. This culminates into one big finale to obtain the pocket mirror. The most important of the regalia, it is what protects Goldia's soul. It represents the memory she holds close to her heart. When Goldia successfully retrieves it before Angel, she offers her the chance to see the world alongside her by joining her as one of the other split personalities. She accepts, and the story comes to a close. What ends up happening after is not said, but you can assume Goldia is at peace. I know, it's a lot to take in. A very lengthy story for what I consider to be a pretty short game. Its use of the manifestation of emotions through characters give the game so much more detail. The overarching plot itself masterfully finishes with an ambiguous ending, one that continues the theme of allowing the player to make their own conclusions. Now as for the subplots, I really only just barely touched on them. I'd encourage playing the game to truly understand the meaning behind things such as a strange boy, and the backstory behind Goldie's family, as most of it is too complex to continue covering in just this video. In fact, these subplots are so large that they're being expanded upon in the upcoming prequel to Pocket Mirror called Little Goody Two Shoes. It will supposedly follow Goldie's mother and the events leading up to her deal with the demon. But that is it. That is Pocket Mirror. While it does have some flaws, I think Pocket Mirror can go down as one of the best story-based RPG Maker horror games. It was extremely ambitious, trying to live up to the likes of Eve and Corpse Party, and in the end, it did. That is my video, and thank you for watching.